Like all great professions, we need to create jargon and fancy words. After all, it's important to confuse the DIY people and at the same time make ourselves look super important and super knowledgeable. So let's talk about our first bit of jargon. If you've got a suspended ground floor, for example timber joists with a little space below, we call this space below the solum. And in this video I'll explain the basics of the preparation of this solum that you can do before you or your builder builds the ground floor of your extension. And why do you want to do this? Well, to save yourself money, because it's easy to do. And if it's easy to do, why get your builder to do it? Once we've dug our trenches and poured the concrete footing for our strip foundations and built up the ground floor level for our home extension, it's time to think about what happens to the area of the ground underneath the proposed new floor. Now, most houses in the UK have either a solid concrete floor sitting directly on compacted ground, and in that case we don't really need to worry about a concrete floor as there is no space or solum below. But for a raised ground floor, for example in this case, this house already has a timber floor raised about 200 millimeters above the outside ground level, and the area under this is called the solum. And we create this solum by first compacting the ground within the area or footprint of the trench blocks, and then adding some sand or spare topsoil from, for example, where we dug out the trenches, to smooth out that area, and then we add a damp-proof membrane over the top. Damp-proof membrane is shortened to DPM. We smooth the sand or soil out to prevent any sharp stone edges from below piercing our damp-proof membrane. Finally, we'll pour concrete base over the top, usually about 50 millimeters thick, and this in conjunction with the DPM or damp-proof membrane forms an area of sealed ground where no rising damp can attack the timber structure over time, and at the same time prevent like small wildlife from establishing itself within the void. The really important thing with all solum spaces is to ensure cross ventilation below the joists to avoid any risk of condensation from trapped air, which in turn can start to rot timber. This is where warm air from the house, for example, will meet the cold air and condense. That's why if you look around older buildings, you'll see these brick or cast iron vents below the floor. For newer properties, house builders will use these plastic vents or sometimes brick vents if it's a facing brick building. They'll position them on all four sides of the building, usually around 2 meter centres, in order to get the required cross ventilation. But check the manufacturer's instructions as always. So that's the solum. I hope that cleared it up for you, and I'll see you in the next one.